Faizal Khamisa and James Sharman here with you. We're just about a month since the Euro 2020 final, which means it's time for more competitive soccer to begin. James, the start of the Premier League is already here. It feels like 2 seasons just ended, given how quickly they crammed this one in. But hey, listen, I'm not complaining about getting this league back in action. There were so many things that happened over the course of this short offseason in the league. Which team's transfer window impressed you the most?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, it's been one of the craziest windows we've seen for a very long time. You know, we thought that spending would be down because of COVID, but I guess not. You know, we're seeing record deals left, right, and center from Jack Grealish to Man City. Romelu Lukaku is very close, if not done now, at Chelsea. Jadon Sancho to your boys, of course. You know, these are all difference makers, really great players. Who's impressed me the most so far? You know what? Aston Villa, you know, that might surprise you, but they got all that money for Jack Grealish, who is a world-class player, and he'll be great at Man City, but I think they've spent really well. You know, Leon Bailey comes from Germany in particular, and Danny Ings, who people might shake their head at and kind of say, well, you know, he's hardly a world-class star, but all he does is score goals.
He just scores. Yeah.
He's a really good player, and I think at Villa and where they're at right now, they've invested that money really well. Now, we thought the same thing with Tottenham Hotspur a few years ago when they sold Gareth Bale. Didn't work out. We're going to see. But I think they've been creative, at least, in what they've done. But as far as the big boys are concerned, I do like the Sancho signing. I won't lie to you. That's it. Manchester United style of player, Faisal. You know that. Yeah. And I think he's just what they need.
I was going to mention with Villa as well, signing Buendia to even start their window from Norwich was a really good way to show what their intentions were this offseason. But I think it's fair to say, James, despite all the other teams trying to improve, they are still very much catching the light blues. Manchester City, as if their team wasn't stacked enough. You mentioned it, 100 million on Jack Grealish, maybe more on the way as well. It is still a pretty decent gap, you think, between everybody else and Man City at the top?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, last season was a cruise between them and of course, United were good, but not nearly as good as City. And you're adding Jack Grealish into that midfield, that attack. Now, I'm curious how he fits in. People find a way to get him and Phil Foden and Raheem Sterling and Bernardo Silva if he stays.
Keep going. And Riyad Mahrez and Kevin De Bruyne. And yeah, you know, keep going. It
doesn't make sense tactically from a conventional outlook, but from Pep's outlook, he's got it all figured out and he'll make it work, I think. They've been just wonderful last season and they're better this season. And if they get Harry Kane, which... Listen, I mean, there's so much conjecture about that. Will Spurs sell? Should they sell? Kane wants out. I think by the end of the window, on August 31st, Kane will be wearing light blue. If they get Harry Kane, then it's going to be a walk in the park. It'll be a great battle for second, I think. But first place, Man City are going to be fun to watch this season.
You know, I came into this offseason with some optimism that teams like Chelsea, teams like Manchester United, teams even like a healthy Liverpool would be able to compete again. And you mentioned that battle for second, and it could be just that, the battle for those Champions League spots. We cannot discount Leicester as well after what they've been doing the last couple seasons. You know, I'm intrigued by what Chelsea's done over the last couple years. They had a massive window last year with Kai Havertz and Ziyech and Timo Werner, and now they're like, you know what? We need another offensive player. Let's spend 100 plus on Romelu Lukaku, allegedly. Again, it could be done, it could not. We know how soccer silly season is, but how do they fit everybody in? Or is this just Timo Werner getting shafted to the bench now?
You know what? Chelsea might be listen, dark horse might be a silly word, but given how good City are, I think they could be the dark horse for the championship, given they were brilliant down the stretch last season, of course. Now, FA Cup finalists, I think they won the European Cup, right? Yeah, won the Champions League, not bad. Went on a great run, even with their attack faltering at times. And Timo Werner, I guess you could call him a bust, but first-year Blues, you know, he could jump back and have a good season now. But you bring in Lukaku, who was arguably the second best striker in world football last year behind Robert Lewandowski. He was superb at Inter Milan, and he grew into himself more of a versatile role. I think it's a great signing for Chelsea for the second time, by the way, of course. He was there earlier in his career. That gives them that ruthless killer instinct. If Werner can find his game and maybe play out wide, Havertz was superb late in the season, had a good World Cup as well. So I think Chelsea's a team that could really, they won't surprise anyone, but they might be the team closest to Man City. But you mentioned Liverpool again. I like teams that kind of stand pat in the transfer window. They've been very quiet. They signed Konate, of course, at the back, and there's still a few weeks to go in the window. But they're healthy now, like you mentioned there, and maybe the Liverpool 2 years ago will return for this season.
Yeah, exactly. Virgil van Dijk coming back to the lineup is a pretty big move, regardless of if you paid for it this offseason or not. I want to talk about the rest, James, because we saw the Villas, the West Hams, the Leeds for a bit last year as well, giving some real trouble to these top tier teams. Who do you think could be the surprise team from the middle of the table this season?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mentioned Villa before, who might improve, even without Jack Grealish, although, that's a big ask, I think. West Ham were great last year, but they're now playing in Europe. And so many teams who play in Europe do falter domestically, because there's a lot of football they're playing now. Thursday, Sunday isn't easy for a lot of these teams. And they've had a very quiet window so far. And you wonder, can they continue that charge? Do we consider Leicester as a middle table, the outsiders? Or
I mean, they wouldn't anymore.
They wouldn't know it. And I think Leicester are wonderful. They've made some interesting signings. Patson Daka arrives, a really exciting attacker who might put pressure on either Vardy or Iheanacho. And Leicester don't go away, do they? They're a team that is always on the rise, and they want to be in the top 4 or 5 once again. So, Leicester might be that team. And it's funny with Spurs, Harry Kane probably leaving. Let's say he leaves. They spent some money. They've got a new manager in Nuno Espirito Santo, who was great at Wolves. I really enjoy this guy. Good soundbite. I know last year they didn't play that entertaining, but there were times at Wolves when they played a great brand of football. So I think he gets a bad rap for that. Maybe Spurs, if they spend properly this time, the money from Harry Kane, if they sell him, they might push it, a little bit. Yeah. They haven't got the pressure that they had perhaps last season. So dare I say it, Spurs, might be a surprise package if they end up selling Harry Kane. If they keep him, they've got the Golden Boot winner, and I think he's professional enough to still play very, very well.
They should be favorites in that conference league, whatever that is, as well.
Where is that, by the way?
In Europe as well. Listen, James, it is going to be exciting, as it always is. Hopefully, we can connect through the course of the season and make sure all our predictions have been wrong. Thanks so much for this, as always.
And they will be, Faizal. Guarantee you the match.